Hounds, chase ghosts, come sleep, watch out, demons are coming, run, sleep, hide, spirits, ghosts, hide, demons, hounds, ghosts, demons are coming, spirits.
Hello, my little hellhounds. Welcome to Home of Scares. If you like the chills running down your spine and to be scared, fueled with anxiety, then join us twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And don't forget to increase your anxiety levels. Just make sure you subscribe. Sleep tight, my hellhounds. To the Satanists in the forest, let's not meet. Posted by Lerdrit1. Hello, I'm French, so I apologise in advance if I make any mistakes. As I just said, I live in France, and this story happened to me this summer just after the lockdown ended. I was and am still 19 at that time. After the lockdown ended, I went to my grandparents to spend a few weeks. I got tested before and no problems there. My grandparents live in a small city in the north of France, and they have a dog who's quite a big dog. When I was really young, I lived at my grandparents for a year, and at that time the dog was only a puppy. Her name is Chippy in French, which kinda means little devil in English, but in an affectionate way. Considering when I was living there, I played with her a lot. We are both really close, and that will have its importance later. Two of my hobbies are having long walks and running. Thus, every evening I was going out for a long walk with the dog. There's a track that follows a path through the forest. Then there's a small hill, and on top of that a big place with lots of fields. I run there a lot, so I know the place. The air is fresh and the view is quite beautiful, so I was going there with the dog every day. It was also helping my grandparents to have her dog doing lots of exercise. The first time we went there, nothing special happened. We enjoyed our walk. It was about 6 to 7 kilometers, so basically an hour walk. The next day, when we arrived on the top of the hill in the field, it was probably around 10 p.m. but there was still some light because it's summer. There were 3 other persons walking in the fields. They were younger than me, probably about 15 or 16. I also noticed they were smoking, so my guess was that they used to come here so they couldn't be seen by their parents. We went past them. I greeted them and they greeted back. Once again, nothing special there. For a whole week, I did this walk around the same time, 10 p.m, and passed by those 3 guys with nothing special happening, and it was perfectly fine to me this way. The second week, as usual, I went for the walk with the dog Chippy and arrived at the fields. There was only one of those 3 boys. He wasn't smoking this time though. When he saw me, I was at the entrance of the field, just after the little hill climb. So, the entrance of the forest was just behind me. He did a sign with his hand to catch my attention and asked if I had a lighter, which I actually had in my pocket. I told him, yeah, sure, so he walked to me, the hand in the pocket of his hoodie. When he came near, for some reason, I felt a shiver. It's crazy how sometimes your instinct knows there's a problem, but you don't listen to it because nothing looks weird to you. I handed over the lighter when he passed by. At that moment, my dog was staring at him. Then everything happened really fast. He did a really fast movement with his hand coming from the hoodie, and I only saw something shining. I just had a reflex of throwing myself back so hard that I fell down, and I just realized that it was a knife he was holding, and he just tried to stab me. What saved me is my dog, God bless her. When she saw the guy trying to stab me, she jumped on him and he fell down. As I said before, it's a really big dog. I immediately got up on my feet and heard something behind me from the entrance of the forest. I saw 2 guys wearing animal masks running to me. They were probably the 2 friends. In this moment, your brain acts for itself. You don't think at all. And in this case, the answer I found was really simple. The other guy was still on the ground. I just watched my dog and told her, run. I started running and she followed me. But I heard the worst possible thing from the guy who got up as well. Catch him, don't let him go. At this moment I was totally terrified. I was running. I was hearing them running behind me. I was only thinking, how long will they follow me? Who the hell are they? This was the first time I was really happy to be a runner. I was clearly better than those guys, and that totally saved me, because they chased for so long that it felt like an eternity to me. Fortunately, at the end of the field there's another entrance to the forest, and this time it's a descent with the road at the end. I heard the steps of the 3 guys vanishing as I arrived at the end of the forest, though I didn't stop running until I arrived at my grandparents' house and locked myself in. I caught a big breath and gave a huge hug to my dog. I saw in her eyes that she totally understood what had happened, and I had never been so happy to have her in my life. After that, I told everything to my grandparents. We called the police, but they didn't find anyone. I don't know what these guys wanted, but their animal masks really made me think about some kind of Satanists. I really don't want to know anyway. I still do long walks with Chippy, the hero dog, but I now go earlier and to places with a little more people. I hope you enjoyed my story. I apologise again, and to the 3 guys in the forest, let's not ever meet again. The first and last time I rode my bike to school, posted by You Don't Wanna Know. The first and last time I biked to school, my mom was always very cautious of the bad things that could happen to her children. She would take all 3 of us, my brother, sister and I, to school in the morning, as she worked close to the same time school started. I had been begging to bike to school since I got a new bike for my birthday a few months earlier, and she finally agreed. I was in grade 7, so 12 or 13 years old and female. My school was a 2 to 3 minute drive and around a 10 to 15 minute bike ride. I was eager to ride my new bike to school, as I had also gotten a new helmet and bike lock to go with it. School started at 8:30 to 9ish, so I left around 8. I liked to hang out in the yard with my friends before school started, so I would always go earlier. The route to school was pretty much one straight line down one main road in my city. Now it's 8 o'clock in the morning, so it's relatively bright outside, and again I'm on a well-populated main road around the time everyone is heading to work or school. So I'm about halfway to school and I decided to cross the street, but not at a crosswalk or traffic light, just kind of jaywalking or biking, if you will. As I'm stopped in someone's driveway, looking both ways to cross, I notice a black car pull up to my left and park on the side of the road. It's a 2-door Honda Civic type looking car from what I can remember. I'm 21 years old currently, and all of the windows were tinted. I didn't think much of it. The only thing that crossed my mind was maybe I was blocking them from getting in their driveway. So I continued on trying to cross the street. From the corner of my eye, I see a man dressed in all black with his hood pulled up to hide his face, getting out of the driver's side and walk around the back of the car to the passenger side. And before I get the chance to realise what's happening, he's opened the passenger side door and is pulling me by the arm of my bike in an attempt to put me in his car. And for what felt like forever, it was like every car on the street had disappeared. Any sign of help was completely gone. One of the busiest streets in my city felt like a gravel road in the middle of nowhere, with nothing to be seen for miles. It also felt like one of those awful nightmares where you try to scream but nothing comes out. So you're just silently suffering until you finally wake up. But it was real. I couldn't scream. I can't explain that feeling any better than a nightmare. But not being able to wake up from it. These things didn't happen in my city, so I wasn't prepared for what to do in a situation like this. So I did the first thing that came to my mind. I aimed for the nuts. I shifted my weight to my right leg and kicked as hard as I possibly could with my left. I landed one kick which I recall actually hurt my ankle a bit, so I can only imagine what it felt like on the receiving end. And he instantly let go. I didn't even look before I crossed the street, biking as fast as I possibly could. I remember trying to turn around to get a license plate, but my eyes were watery from the tears streaming from them, and it still felt like making any noise was impossible. I knew my mum would have been at work by now, so I just continued biking to school, silently crying the entire way. I pulled into the schoolyard and dropped my bike. I didn't care to lock it or ever ride it anywhere again. Frankly, my school's front door was locked 24/7 and you had to ring a doorbell to get in. So I did exactly that. The secretary reminded me that I still had time to play outside before class started, and that's when I was finally able to speak again. I need to call my mum, I screamed. The door opened instantly. I explained what happened to the secretary. Then the principal, my mum, and finally the police, who I had refused to talk to until I spoke with my mum. The police arrived to the school shortly and took my statement. Then I went to the station after school to make another with my mum. A business across the street from where it happened had video surveillance, but it only captured the bottom 6 inches of the guy's car pulling up, his footsteps around the back of his car, and then the car pulling away shortly after. Basically, no solid leads on who this prick was or is. The same guy with the same body description and car description went on to attempt to kidnap 3 other girls, but still was never caught. I don't really believe in God, but I do pray that he was or is never successful. saved by a stranger, posted by Colette3R. The story I'm about to tell you happened last night. I live in Nantes, West France. I'm quite a petite girl, and I avoid confrontation whenever I can. I'm pretty good at it because, since I can remember, I had a very strong sixth sense thing. I try to avoid people who make me anxious. It allows me to survive some very dangerous situations and prevent one kidnapping, but that's not part of this story. Yesterday, I visited a very close friend of mine. A few days ago, she broke her leg, so I decided to cheer her up by giving her a few gifts. The atmosphere was so nice that I didn't notice when it got dark outside. Despite the late hour, I decided to go home. I said goodbye to my friend and left her apartment. I was about 40 minutes from home, but I walked this distance many times without any problems, so I thought it would be the same this time. Oh, how wrong I was. Less than 5 minutes passed, and I just felt it was going to be hell. I was approaching one of the many bridges in our city. I didn't see anyone around. I thought my senses were playing a trick on me. This happened before, so I kept going. The bridge was about 20 meters in front of me before I heard a conversation and a giggle. I turned my head slightly and saw 3 men walking towards me. I felt a cold sweat on my back, but it was too late to turn back. I didn't want to show them that I was afraid. I know this type of behavior provokes more harassment. I kept walking, but turned the music down. I didn't take my headphones off because I didn't want them to know about my suspicions. I heard their footsteps behind my back. They were saying something, but I didn't know what, because they were speaking in a different language. I was already on the bridge when they caught up with me. As I said, I'm a petite girl. They were over 180 centimeters tall. They surrounded me. I had no choice but to go ahead. A shudder ran through my body. I didn't know what they wanted or what they were saying, but I felt that I was in danger. They kept talking to me. They leaned over me and whispered something into my ears, and they laughed. This sound will haunt me for the rest of my life. At one point they noticed I was doing my best to ignore them, and then the worst began. They started making animal noises. It may sound strange and maybe even funny, but it was terrifying to me. They howled, growled, whistled, and kissed the air loudly. They did these things very close to my face. I was desperate, but where would I go? I was on the bridge. I would kill myself if I jumped into the water, or at least break both my legs if I were lucky. Those 2 minutes to cross the bridge felt like an eternity to me. When we got to the end of the bridge, I was sweaty, close to tears. I thought I was going to throw up. I was shaking, which seemed to amuse them even more. And then a miracle happened. Someone called my name very loud. I looked up and saw someone approaching us. He was a very tall man, several years older than me, but I didn't know him. I had no idea who he was or how he knew my name, but it didn't matter at the time. I felt he was my guardian angel. He came over to us and was staring furiously at the three strangers. I didn't see their faces, but they fell silent. "What are you doing to my girlfriend?" he asked, still frowning at them. He stretched out his hand in my direction, never taking his eyes off them. "Come on, sweetheart." I did not wait. I didn't know who he was, why he was helping me, but I didn't care. I gripped his hand tightly and almost nestled against his shoulder. My heart was beating fast and loud, but I was so thankful he came to help me. Three strangers and my saviour exchanged glances. They were silent. I was starting to panic that they would attack him because he was there alone, and I wouldn't have the strength to help him if they would attack. But it didn't happen. I almost heard their teeth grinding when they muttered something. My saviour held my hand tightly and watched them. They turned back and went back on the bridge. We stood in the same place for some time. He looked at me and smiled, and at that moment my body gave up. I started shaking uncontrollably, and I almost drowned in my own tears. He didn't say a word. He just held my hand and gave me time to cool down. After a long moment, he offered to take me home. We walked slowly and talked about various things. Actually, he was talking all the time. I was just nodding. I found out he was walking near the bridge and noticed the whole scene. He decided to react and help me if it turned out that his assumptions were correct. I asked him how he knew me and how he knew my name. He looked surprised and then smiled and said he didn't know my name. He used this name because it is one of the most popular in the country. When we got home, I was still shaky but happy. I offered him something to drink. I don't live alone, so I wasn't worried about letting him in, but he kindly declined and said goodbye. I can't believe how lucky I was yesterday. If I hadn't met him, I don't know if I could write about today. So luck, thank you. Thank you so much for saving me. I hope to meet you one day. As to these three strangers, I hope one day you will understand that your behaviour is reprehensible and you will change your attitude to women who walk alone. And I hope to never meet you again. Update: I reported to the police about what happened to me. They were very helpful, but I still feel uneasy thinking about it. I found out that I am not the only one who informed them about the dangerous men walking down the street at night. 2 women had done this before, and they described the men who harassed them. They're just match, so the police hope to catch them soon. I was scared and I was hesitant, but I told them about my saviour too. Fortunately, he did not appear in any of the statements of the 2 women. One woman described 3 men, the other described 5, but their descriptions did not match luck. I want to believe he had nothing to do with them, but I'll be careful. Thanks to you, I understand I have to observe my surroundings and not let my guard down. I am still very grateful to luck for saving me, and I want to believe he is a great and honest man, and I want to thank you again for your warnings and support. If I find out more, I'll let you know. Be careful when at McDonald's. Posted by Vavlts. So I just stumbled across this subreddit and thought I'd share my story. This happened around 2006 when I, male, was 11 years old. My cousin Erin, female, was spending the week with my sister and I over summer vacation. My mum had just had my younger brother in late 2005, so she was occupied with him basically 24/7, and my dad was a cop and worked crazy hours, so he wasn't around much during the day at this time. At some point during the week, my mom decided to take all of us to McDonald's. We ordered and took our food to the back of the McDonald's to sit at a table connected to one of those super long booths along the wall nearest to the bathrooms. Sitting on the same booth, but a few tables down, was an older man sitting by himself. He was probably in his 60s, a bit overweight, balding, and had those huge lenses, 80s style glasses. He also had a mustache, and what hair he did have on his head was pretty messy, like he just rolled out of bed. And he was wearing a dirty t-shirt with grey sweatpants. I noticed him at first, but he kept his head down and didn't seem to pay any attention to us, so I kinda blew him off and almost forgot that he was there. My mom had my brother in his car seat by the table and was feeding him French fries. He either choked or just got sick, but he started throwing up all over the place. So my mum grabbed him and rushed into the bathroom with him, followed by my sister to help. Erin and I were left alone at the table, and we're just talking about whatever. All of a sudden, the old dude looks over to us and starts trying to have a conversation with us. It started with the casual, "Hey, how are you guys doing?" And then he said something about hoping my brother was okay. So we politely responded, thinking that's all he was wanting to say. But then he immediately started getting weird. He asked our ages, which we told him, and then he started asking our names and where our mums worked. I wasn't sure what to do, so I looked at Erin and she gave me this look like, don't tell him anything. So we both looked down and ignored his questions, at which point he started to get angry. He started saying that we had to tell him because he worked for the FBI and he needed to know that information. Just then, a younger guy in his 20s with his girlfriend came walking around the corner to sit down and caught what the guy was saying to us. He looked at him and said, "Hey man, why don't you leave them alone? You're obviously making them uncomfortable." And the creepy guy tried making some excuse for why he was talking to us. Then the younger guy went over and told a manager what was going on, and she came over and asked the guy to leave. As soon as he was walking out, my mom and sister came out of the bathroom, and Erin and I quickly explained what had just happened. My mom sent my sister to the window to try and write down his license plate number so my dad could find out who he was. My sister got the number wrong, but I do remember he was driving a green Saturn. I don't know what his intentions were that day with us, but hopefully he didn't try to do the same thing or much worse to any kids after that. Either way, I cannot thank the younger guy enough for saving us from the awkward situation and telling the manager what was going on. So, if by some miracle you're that guy and you're reading this, thank you, and I haven't forgotten it. And if you're that creepy ass old man, F you, bro. Someone hid a camera inside my house. Posted by NoWayCIA. This happened one morning, or 3, maybe 4 years ago. My mum and I were in the same part of the house where the bedrooms are, getting dressed to go into school and go into work. My dad instead was in the other part of the house, ready to leave for work. Suddenly I heard something like a static noise, like those from bad tuned radios or from a walkie-talkie, followed by some footsteps. I immediately said, "Dad, is that you?" But I got no response, so I decided to go to the other part of the house. But I just see a male figure with the corner of my eye leaving the main door. Initially, we both, me and my mom, didn't give it so much attention, since we knew that Dad was leaving and maybe he didn't hear me calling him. The following days we haven't heard or seen anything out of the ordinary. Sometime after that, like 3 or 4 weeks, a friend of mine talked to me about Shodan. For those who don't know, Shodan is a search engine for hacked IP cameras or any other IoT device that may use the default passwords or no password at all. Since in my house I have a offline DVR recorder, I tried to search my parents' house just for fun, since I've already said it's not connected to the internet. Scrolling through the result, I immediately recognised our living room. Needless to say, I started having a panic attack. I immediately tried to call my dad, asking him if he recently bought a new online camera for the living room, but he replied that he had no idea of what I was talking about. So we both came home, we located the camera and we removed it. It was a very small camera connected to the network with Wi-Fi and powered by a small power supply, a 5-volt power supply. Hidden behind a bookshelf, I immediately tell my dad what we saw that morning, some weeks before, and since I was remembering quite correctly the day and the time, we took the DVR's hard drive and started to go back in time to see anything suspicious. However, we saw nothing apart from one small detail. The recording of the morning my mum and I heard someone inside the house was not present in the disc. It was like someone used a jammer to disturb our old analog security cameras, since the DVR timestamp was there, but the video was glitchy. The next day we looked everywhere to see if those people left any other cameras, microphones, or any other electronic device, but we didn't find anything. My dad, however, wasn't fully sure of that, so he called a guy whose company offers a service to discover bugs. That service is quite expensive, since it's only used by politicians or businessmen, but even them didn't find anything. At this point, my parents went to the police to see if there were any active investigations or if one of us was a person of interest. Yeah, this sounds absurd, but we thought of a mistake. But even they didn't know anything. Instead, they offered to start a new investigation, which led to nothing as usual. Since that day, we didn't see, hear, or found anything out of the ordinary, inside or outside the house. My dad also called the bug company 2 more times, but they didn't discover anything. What struggles me most after all these years is that those people didn't steal anything. It was only a single episode. They managed to delete the footage of them entering our house using our old DVR system. As I said before, it is offline, so the only way to use it is to physically access the DVR. Well, that's all for tonight, my little hellhounds. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you would like more content like this every Tuesday and Thursday. Good night, little hellhounds.